This is something a little special I've been saving, and it's very timely, and I thought I'd talk about my Christmas at the South Pole in Antarctica. Well, I'll start from the beginning because I was the heavy equipment department supervisor in McMurdo Station in Antarctica, and my first year when I took that job full-time, I was also responsible for hiring folks going to South Pole Station for the heavy equipment department there. And part of my duties was to go down there once during the season at McMurdo and just see the operations and know what I'm hiring for and everything. Eventually, after that season, that all got taken away, made its own self-sustaining department down there. They had their own fleet ops. I was called fleet ops. It was an old Navy term from when the Navy built McMurdo Station and the South Pole Station. So that became its own thing. They were in the middle of the station rebuild in McMurdo Station, where I was stationed, and it was just too overwhelming to have to worry about South Pole Station as well. And so with the station rebuild, along with already having to be responsible for the skiway, the airfield, Williams Field, Phoenix Airfield, the compacted snow runway, the sea ice science, the road maintenance, 20 miles of snow roads, supporting the South Pole Traverse, just tons and tons of stuff. The ice pier, building and maintaining the ice pier, the offload and unload of cargo that happened annually. At any rate, it was super overwhelming. And back to the story, I was slated to go to South Pole. I think it was at the end of November. And unfortunately, as always happens in Antarctica, the weather got really, really bad, and the flights in and out of there were not great. So it kept getting canceled. I don't know, the end of November, I went to the Air Force doctor. They gave me this stuff called Diamox, because McMurdo Station, it's at sea level. That's why the vessel can come in there. Strategically in Antarctica, McMurdo Station is the closest you can get to the South Pole with a boat. And so that's why all the cargo goes through McMurdo Station, then to South Pole on the Traverse, or flies in on a LC-130 ski aircraft. And what happened was I got issued the Diamox because South Pole Station is about 9,000, a little over 9,000 feet above sea level. So I'd been working at sea level for months and months. I was acclimatized to sea level. And you take this Diamox, and it helps with the altitude sickness. So I'd get all my gear, geared up, check in at the airport. They'd cancel the flight. I'd already taken the Diamox because you're supposed to take it before you go. They gave me a whole bunch. And, you know, this went on for week after week after week after week. And eventually, towards the end of December, right before Christmas, I got called. They said, hey, your flight's going. It was on the board. Flight was scheduled to go, so I took all my baggage in, had it weighed, got weighed. At that point, I had already given up on the possibility of even going to Pole. I knew the weather had been iffy, and so I didn't bother to take the Diamox. I forgot about taking the Diamox. I didn't care about it. I didn't think I was going anyway, and lo and behold, that flight was headed out. So I got on the shuttle, took it out to Williams Field. We stayed they have a little galley that we set up. That was part of what my department did. They would set up Williams Field, put the power lines in, move all the buildings in place. They are all on skis. And basically, every year at the end of the season, we build these berms that are 2 or 3 feet high because they get accumulated snow. Keeps them up above the accumulated snow, and that's where they winter. And then in the summer, we compact Williams Field with a sheep's foot compactor and tracks, and pull all the buildings back in place, including the galley where I was staying. So we went in there. They always had chili there. It was really good chili. They called it Willie Chili, Williams Field chili. And so had a bowl of chili, and sure enough, got on that airplane. And here's a clip of on the airplane. They had loaded all the cargo. There were scientists and other folks going there for work. first thing I saw was this, and this is the entrance to South Pole Station. So I got into South Pole Station. Everybody gets a briefing with the station manager, and it was, I think, Christmas Eve. They were getting ready for the Christmas party. They had the big gym decorated, and which was a good time. And I had arrived and started some pretty bad altitude sickness. I wasn't feeling good. I was super tired. And I'd never really been bothered with altitude sickness before. Growing up in Colorado, it's pretty high altitude. Come in and out of the mountains a lot. But this was a little different. And I got to my room. Everything's rationed there, of course. Even fresh water is very scarce. You're allowed to shower, I think, once a week. I think I had my one shower later that week. Got my room, which is a single-person room. Here's a little video clip of it. One of the crane operators that works at South Pole during the South Pole season is substantially shorter than the one at McMurdo. So he would go to South Pole, and then on the shoulder of the season, what we called wind fly, which was still winter going into spring, and then summer season. This is austral, so it's opposite of up north where most of us are used to. And then at the end of the South Pole season, he would come back to McMurdo and help us with the offload of the vessel cargo. And he was there. He kind of showed me around the whole time. And we went to the party. I may have had a little to drink. I may have had a little too much to drink. And on top of the altitude sickness, let's just say Christmas morning, I slept in quite a ways. I probably got up around, I don't know, noon, 1, 2 o'clock or so. And did some walking around the station, went to the station store. They have a greenhouse there, and when you're deployed to Antarctica, the smell of organics and dirt is just overwhelming when you actually smell it. So I'll never forget that amazing smell of that greenhouse at South Pole Station. And so I went in there, sat for a bit. They have actual real ice cream at South Pole. It's kind of one of the little treasures they have. I got a little tour to the shop, to what they call the beer can on the other end, the vehicle maintenance shop. Went and looked at all the equipment, talked to all the fleet ops operators there, talked to the fleet ops supervisor there, who ironically has the same birthday as I do, and kind of a funny story there. And just spent the day with them, and we did some welding, built some stairs, did some crane work, set some towers up, a few things like that. I went to the South Pole telescope, take a look at that. Folks were expecting me at Christmas breakfast, and I was not having any of it. I did not feel like eating, which was probably another mistake. But at any rate, we had a fantastic Christmas dinner, and I believe we had duck that day, which was very good. Very good hors d'oeuvres, very good cooks at the South Pole Station. And they are working with stuff that's probably a year old, that's frozen, that came in on the previous year during the South Pole Traverse usually. Some of it was flown in. Some freshies were flown in occasionally when they had room on cargo. So we did have some good freshies. It was a good day. I sat with the station manager. We had Christmas dinner. So after dinner, I think we ended up, and maybe it was the day after Christmas. So we got 2 days off. We got, I think, Christmas Day and the day after off. 2-day weekends are very rare in Antarctica. When you're deployed for work, it's 6 days a week, 9 hours a day, minimum. So we had the 2 days off, which I definitely needed with the altitude sickness. But I ended up running a D4, pulling people back and forth to one of the adjacent camps, which was in the South American sector. in front of the South Pole Station. There's some pictures of that right there. So I'm purposely leaving a lot of pictures out that have other folks in there just for their privacy. Anyway, that was a good event. I ended up running the dozer, pulling sled loads of people back and forth. They were riding on a sled behind an old D4 and taking people to that camp, and we celebrated with them, celebrated Christmas with them. It was a really, really good experience, and something that I will definitely remember the rest of my life. And among things I got to do there was see, of course, the ceremonial South Pole, have my picture taken right there. But there's a dirty little secret. There's a lot of people that pay a lot of money to go to the South Pole. They'll pay, a lot of the people that went in that camp, and it was pretty extravagant, but you were still roughing it. They pay upwards of $85,000, $100,000 just to go to the South Pole and then go home. And the dirty little secret is the ceremonial South Pole is not the actual South Pole. It moves every year. The United States Antarctic Program resurveys it. So here's a picture of the real South Pole. So the funny thing is, not everyone that's been to the South Pole has actually been to the South Pole. So I had a few Christmases in Antarctica. That was the one at the South Pole. And it was very fortunate to get to stay there for Christmas. Definitely a lifetime of memories in just a few days. I think I was there a week in total, hanging out, doing work with the fellas down there, learning the ropes, what they need, what they do, and what I needed to hire heavy equipment operators there for, what they needed at South Pole. And a majority of what their heavy equipment department does there is simply move snow away from the station. They move a lot of snow. They just spot the traverse when they bring cargo in and out, and they maintain the skiway where they land the planes as well. Among the equipment they have there, I think they had some fat tire loaders, piston bullies, LMCs, big tire, fat tire vans, trucks, I think D8s, of course LGPs, the wide tracks, and then a lot of them had the coal blades on them, just like we had at McMurdo on the ice shelf. We had at McMurdo, we had D7Es, D8Rs. In town, we had a D9N. It stayed in town. It was narrow track, so not something that the ice shelf could support. You wouldn't want to take that heavy of a dozer out there. South Pole had a lot of D4s, some skid steers, tracked skid steers, things like that. And because of the accumulation of snow that happens at the South Pole, the whole station is meant to be raised. It's on these pillars, and the whole thing gets raised up as the snow accumulates. So that's basically what Fleet Ops at South Pole does, is just keep snow away, get the airplanes in, load them, unload them, and the same with South Pole Traverse when they pull basically Cat Challenger tractors pulling big, huge fuel bladders and cargo sleds full of food and supplies. And you might ask if I saw penguins. Yes, I've seen emperor penguins, Adelie penguins, leopard seal. I saw a leopard seal on a rare occasion, very rare to see. Waddell seals, there's tons of those, and skua birds. Those are really basically the only wildlife in Antarctica. A lot of people think there's polar bears. There's no polar bears. There's no vegetation. Nothing grows. Maybe at Palmer Station, you might have some moss and things, but that's about it. It never gets warm enough. We flew there on LC-130s, so many of you are familiar with C-130 aircraft, and they're not fun to fly on. They are incredibly loud. They're cramped. The ones we were on had the extra blades on the props for short takeoff and landing, and with the skis on it, they are also JATO equipped if they need to, because sometimes they will fly those into field camps out in the boonies in Antarctica to drop off fuel and supplies. When we left South Pole Station, we were grossly loaded, and I remember looking out the window on the skiway and seeing the markers on the skiway, and yeah, we're going, 1,000 feet, 2,000 feet, oh, we're in the overrun. We barely got off the ground. It was heavy because you remember the altitude's high there, and we were hauling trash out of South Pole Station, so everything that goes into Antarctica comes out of Antarctica, and it goes on that vessel. We load it in McMurdo. So we flew that back to McMurdo along with the passengers and other cargo, and that's my South Pole story. I hope you enjoy it, and I want to wish you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and I want to thank you once again for being members of this channel, and I hope you enjoy the content. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here with me, and I hope you look forward to more videos, and I look forward to doing more videos for you.